Happy New Year, MCA. I hope everyone's having a great start to their 2023. We're excited to talk to you about, both on the MCA front and the Brookhaven front, tax prep for 2022. So we're taking a second to make a video to really lay out timeline, process, next steps, and really the things we've improved since last year. Y'all were a lot of folks at a very short amount of time that came on to Brookhaven, and we've taken a very conscious and deliberate effort to improve experience, given all the great feedback that y'all have submitted to us to build this process around you as a community, because that's what we're doing. You are so unique as a community, and there's so many unique considerations, and we are building everything around that, from the servicing standpoint, from the analysis, and how everything that's set up for you is integrated together across the tax, the trust, the business, all these things that we've talked about before. So you should have gotten an email. If you haven't read it, please read it. And if you didn't get it, let us know. But it's an email from Tax at Tax Mindful, Brookhaven, and it should lay out kind of the kickstart of the 2022 tax prep. And that kickstart email lays out timeline, some deadlines there on information gathering, and the general process moving forward. Information gathering is going to take place between now and the 28th of February. Why are we trying to consolidate all information gathering by the end of February? Well, we know that taxes are due mid-April. This year, in fact, it's April 18th, because the 15th is on the weekend, and then that Monday is some federal holiday or something. I don't think it's federal holiday, but emancipation, I'm not sure. But something that's happening Monday that pushes it to Tuesday, the 18th of April. So we've got some time, but we've got to leave ourselves room to have conversations on what money needs to be moved over in order to pay any extension payment if necessary, and review what has been done. So by the end of February, we need everything for the filing of your 2022 tax return. And we need you to take that seriously. And if you're not, we might not be the best partner for you going forward. And I hate to sound so direct about that, but we had folks last year that waited until 2 or 3 days before to get us information. And we are not doing that this year. We're not. It is harmful to you, and it puts us in a bind of trying to calculate things last minute and hoping that we're right when we're rushing to put numbers together. And we're not going to do it. 28 February, that's a whole month in between now and then for you to gather your information, get it our way, both the fiat stuff and the crypto stuff, which we'll talk here about in just a second. Get it together, submit it to Intuit Link, and let's get working on it. We'll take March to do the analytics and figure out what you owe in April, if anything. Maybe you don't. But we'll have that month for us internally to review everything thoroughly, so that by April 4th is going to be our deadline to get you information on what you owe, if anything. April 4th. That gives you 2 weeks from that date to the 18th exactly to review it, move money over, if you do have a payment, prior to us filing your extension on the 18th. And again, we're filing extensions for everyone just like we did last year, for the same reasons. Why not buy 6 more months to review everything, to make sure everything's accurate, efficient, before we actually file a return? But remember, just because we're kicking that can down the road 6 months, which is fine, you still got to pay what you're supposed to, says the IRS, by mid-April with the filing deadline. So you're still supposed to pay what you're supposed to for what's due on 2022 by the 18th of April. That's what we're going to use the month of March of to determine, based off of all the information you're going to submit no later than 28 February. 28 February, I'm saying it a few times. 28 February, we owe you by 4 April what you owe, if anything, instructions on what to do, kind of just a rundown. We're not going to review your entire tax return by 4 April or 18 April. We're not going to, when I say review it, I mean, we're not going to submit a complete return that's ready to file, because we're not filing that return until later in the year. What we're going to do in between now and 4 April is look at all the income you made in 2022, all the expenses you had that were deductible, and then what was withheld from your taxes already, or what you paid otherwise, and figure out, what do you owe? What's the difference? Or what's the refund? Now, you won't get the refund until we actually file, but if you're supposed to get a refund, the answer of what you owe is obviously 0. But we're going to file an extension on the 18th. We're going to use the month of March to do all the analytics. You got to get us everything through Intuit Link no later than 28 February. And if you've got any questions, who are you emailing? Me? No. Anyone individually at Brookhaven? No. Tax@TaxMindful, TAX@TaxMindful is the best place to shoot your emails because it has multiple team members monitoring it. If you shoot something to me and I'm traveling, it might be difficult for me to get back with you. If you shoot it to Tax@TaxMindful, we have a standard that you get a response within 24 hours, outside of the weekends, of course. That's our standard. Now, if you list out 20 questions, we might not be able to answer all those questions within 24 hours, but we're at least going to say, hey, we got your email. We're analyzing what you got, what you sent over, and getting answers to those questions. Give us X number of days, and we'll get back to you with answers. That's what that communication will look like, and that's very important. So we want to be very receptive to you from a communication standpoint. Email's the best around this time of year, and Tax@TaxMindful is the best email. Now, if we have to have a call, of course we will. Is a call really necessary in between now and 18 April? Probably not, because we're not filing your return then. We're really just doing math on the other side of the fence for the data that you submit. So let's push email. And if we've got to set up a call for one reason or another, either before April, but really after April, in between that window of extension and filing, it might be more appropriate then, we'll do so. But as effectively as we can use email to move forward, the more effective it is for us and will be for you as we timely prep your filing and get everything in order there. So outside of that deadline or those deadlines, let's talk about communication. We talked about that. We talked about Intuit Link, deadlines, extension. I'm just going through my notes here. Crypto specifically. So Megan Barr, who all of you probably know, has been doing a great job putting together videos that lay out considerations for Coinly transactions, getting set up there. She's really been working hard, y'all, just trying to get everyone in order. So if you get a chance to talk to her, thank her, because she's been staying up late, creating these videos. She really cares about this. If you all can, make sure you're receptive to any information requests she has, and make sure you watch the videos she's putting out. Now, Coinly, like I've said before, is not perfect. It's probably the best of the worst when it comes to tax crypto software and what we need it to do. We're still working, and hopefully this comes to fruition eventually, on a proprietary software that takes a lot of time and energy to put together, especially when you're building it to try to be reflective of a proof of stake model like Hex, or really any other proof of stake. Coinly works fine for Bitcoin, or really any proof of work, because it's so cut and dry. You bought it, you sold it, you bought it, you sold it. That's easy from a tax standpoint. You recognize the gain when you sold it, if there is any. For proof of stake, it's totally different, especially with all of the nuance out there on how the heck it's even taxed. So Coinly doesn't work great for that. So what Megan's done through these videos is she walks you through how to use Coinly, how to categorize your transactions, but understand you're going to need to review those transactions. Are there transactions in there that Coinly inappropriately categorized? Did it categorize something as an airdrop that isn't, or vice versa? Did it just miss a transaction altogether? It's going to be hard to tell. It's generally good about feeding everything in, unless you're doing something that otherwise wouldn't show up. Then it's going to know what transactions took place for the what you add and integrate into Coinly. So it should get everything, but you need to review it and make sure that there's nothing you need to manually add, transactions that you need to change the categorization of, because we're not going to know just by looking at your Coinly report whether or not Coinly inappropriately categorized an airdrop. Hypothetically, we're going to review everything, and if we see Hedron and it's like, oh, that's clearly an airdrop, let's say, just based off of the timing of it, then we'll know that there's a mistake there if it's categorized inappropriately. But we're going to ask you to go through your transactions, because you're going to know better than we do what happened when, and if anything just seems off, then you're going to know to at least raise your hand and say, hey, this looks weird, and we can look at that. But Megan's videos are going to walk you through how you categorize everything, and it's going to be critical that you categorize everything, because we're taking that data, putting it into your return in order to do the calculation for what you owe, if anything, in April, and obviously what will eventually be filed. So the onus is on you to get Coinly set up, to watch the videos and to categorize those transactions appropriately and get them to us no later than the 28th of February. Now, we'll be able to see your Coinly account. So it's not like you got to export anything and send it over. We're going to look at it. We're going to look at LIFO, FIFO, HIFO, all these different things as we go through it. But it is your job to go through those transactions and categorize them as appropriate. And understand that Coinly is not perfect. I'll say it again. It's just not. It reads things weird with the staking. But follow Megan's instruction. I think that's the best we can get to unless you manually change some things. And that's where we'll go. And I think that process will improve just with better software as we move forward. But you need to review everything. And then you just need to check, do a gut check once you look at Coinly as to what it says your taxable gain or loss was for that year after you've done the categorizations. Because here's what we can't let happen. We can't have you do the transaction categorization. We get all that data. We upload it to your tax return. We're doing all the calculations, figuring out what you owe. And then you tell us April 3rd, no, those transactions are wrong. After we spend a month getting them all uploaded, doing the calculations based off of what you greenlighted. Can't do that. You got to give us a green light by 28 February, and we're going to take that data and run with it. But we can't have data changes in between 28 February and 4 April when we're going to be spending that time doing the analytics in the background to get you the information you need for the extension filing, i.e. what you owe, if anything. So you got to make sure over the next few weeks you spend a little bit of time. I know it's annoying. And again, if we can get some proprietary software built, I think we can fix this to where it's more automated, more efficient. But right now, you got to go through the transactions and see if anything sticks out, follow the guidance and categorize things if they're categorized inappropriately, the stake starting, stake ending, all of those things that are critical, and then pay attention to the end and see if that taxable gain or loss seems right. If it seems off, then something might not be right in the categorization, or maybe you just were unaware of the gain or loss that was created. But pay attention to that before you greenlight it, because the moment you tell Megan and team, hey, I'm good to go, we're running with that data. And it would be very difficult for us to stop midstream having put stuff into your return when you say, oh, something needs to change. In that short window, we've got to get everything in order for the extension filing. So let us know if you got any questions, but pay attention to Megan's videos. Give feedback. Again, we're making these for y'all. We're building this process around this community. It's such an important community. It is the community of MCA. So we've got to make sure that we continue to adapt our process to the service needs of you all. So please be open about things that can improve. We don't have thin skin there. We'll take it, run with it, and we're always looking to improve. So please pay attention to that. 28 February deadline for getting everything over to us. If you've got any questions, tax@taxmindful, tax@taxmindful.com. We'll get an answer back to you by 4 April on what you owe, and then you will have to move the money. We can pay it for you. We'll get your extension filed, and then we'll continue our conversations going forward from that point on what's going to happen in between that 18 April and the actual filing of the return. If you've got a business, so if you started a business in 2022, we've got to file a return for that, even if it was the business you started for your crypto and there's no activity in that business. Still got to file a return. It should be a pretty simple return, but that return would generally be due the 15th of March, but we're going to file an extension. So it's not a huge deal. There's not much that, unless you've had activity in the business that you created in 2022, if you did, let us know. And that'll be through Intuit Link. So you don't need to send us an email saying, hey, I had activity in my business. Once you go into Intuit Link, it's going to have a questionnaire for you. And you know my opinion of questionnaires, that they're a pain in the ass, and I hate doing them just as much as you do. But that questionnaire, there's going to be a questionnaire for business. If you got a new business, there's going to be a questionnaire for you individually. Go through both of them because it's going to ask us data that helps ensure that your return is prepped accurately and timely. The business one is pretty robust, and for the crypto business, it's going to ask you questions like, did you acquire real estate or have new partners? And all those are obviously no, but it's more for any other business you might start outside of your crypto holding company. If you start another business and you do have employees or you do have assets that you purchase, machinery or buildings. It's more applicable to that, but run through it. If you did start a new business, we'll get the crypto holding company business filed, an extension for it. But that's going to be a pretty easy return because there's not much that happened unless you tell us there did in 2022 for that entity if you set it up. The trusts, if you've set up and signed any trusts in 2022, will need a return, but again, not all that complicated. Any fee that you would ordinarily pay MCA goes to the preparation of your tax returns. So no one up to this point has paid a fee to MCA just because we haven't done the accounting for what was off-ramped in 2022. Really not a ton that was off-ramp, just given the dynamics of where the market is, especially later in the year. So it's not going to be a huge number, but just understand if there's anything that you owe MCA, MCA is going to turn around and pay that money towards your tax prep. And I'm not sure if MCA will get the accounting out for what you owe for 2022 prior to the filing of your extension. Probably not. That's something we'll need to true up at some point, but just understand that 100% of that's going to go to paying for the preparation of your return or returns if you've got a business, if you've got a trust. So we'll talk more about that, but the bottom line is there's nothing we're going to need from you for the trusts. There's nothing we're going to really need from you for the business, even though it's going to ask for some stuff like P&Ls. And if you did have profit and loss in 2022 that was material, of course, include it, but otherwise leave it blank. Go through the questionnaire. I hate to ask y'all to fill it out, but it really, really helps make sure that your information is accurate on the return and we get to a good number. But at the end of the day, our analysis is only as good as the information you provide. So if you omit something, if you forget to send us a W-2 or a 1099, it's just not included, then your extension estimate is probably going to be off. You're going to find out in October that, this other thing came up and it changed what you owe, which isn't detrimental, but just know that at 28 February, that's what we're going with. So what is submitted by that date, that we're assuming that's everything. We're not going to ask you, hey, is that everything? 28 February, we're going off of that for purposes of calculation. Of course, we're going to ask and make sure it's everything before the return is filed. But if we don't have everything by 28 February, then it just means your estimate is not going to be accurate. So let us know again if you've got any questions, feedback, tax at Tax Mindful. We look forward to continuing to service you. We look forward to 2023 and hopefully a market rebound here in short order. And if you've got any questions, like I said, let us know. Hope you have a great rest of your year and we'll talk soon. Take care.